Live off $500,000 in the bank and do nothing else. What if $500,000 could buy you complete financial independence instead of just a down payment on an expensive house? While most Americans believe they need $2 million more to retire comfortably, some people are achieving financial freedom with far less money by understanding one crucial principle that traditional retirement advice completely ignores. But here's the reality that financial influencers won't tell you. This strategy involves significant risks, lifestyle trade-offs, and psychological challenges that make it inappropriate for most people. The math works theoretically, but the human factors often don't. Today, we're examining both the possibilities and the serious limitations of the $500,000 financial independence strategy. I'll show you the real numbers, the hidden costs, and the lifestyle restrictions required to make this work. Because understanding what you're actually signing up for matters more than wishful thinking about early retirement. If you want honest analysis instead of financial fantasy, comment financial reality below, and let's explore what $500,000 can and cannot actually buy you. The first component we need to examine is the mathematics behind passive income. Number 1. The mathematics of passive income. The concept of living off investment returns instead of depleting savings represents a fundamentally different approach to financial independence. But the mathematics involved are often oversimplified in ways that can lead to unrealistic expectations and poor financial decisions. While the basic principle is sound, the reality involves significant risks and variables that many people underestimate or ignore entirely. The theoretical foundation rests on what financial researchers call the 4% withdrawal rule, which originated from a 1994 study by financial planner William Bengen. His research suggested that retirees could withdraw 4% of their initial portfolio value annually, adjusted for inflation, with a reasonable probability of not running out of money over 30 years. Applied to $500,000, this would theoretically generate $20,000 in the first year, or about $1,667 monthly. However, this calculation immediately reveals the first major reality check. $20,000 annually represents a very modest lifestyle by most American standards. When you factor in healthcare costs, housing expenses, food, transportation, and other necessities, this amount requires either living in very low-cost areas or accepting significant lifestyle restrictions that many people find unacceptable in practice. More concerning are the assumptions underlying the 4% rule that may not hold in current economic conditions. Bengen's study was based on historical market performance from 1926 to 1976, a period that included exceptional economic growth and different market conditions than we face today. With current low interest rates, high market valuations, and different economic dynamics, many financial researchers now suggest that 3 to 3.5% withdrawal rates may be more realistic for long-term sustainability. If we apply a more conservative 3.5% withdrawal rate to $500,000, the annual income drops to $17,500, or about $1,458 monthly. This reduction might seem small, but it represents a 12.5% decrease in available income that could significantly impact lifestyle sustainability, especially when considering that these calculations assume everything goes according to plan. The mathematical models also assume consistent market performance that simply doesn't exist in reality. Markets experience significant downturns that can last several years, during which continuing to withdraw money can permanently damage your portfolio's ability to recover. The sequence of returns risk means that poor market performance early in retirement can derail the entire strategy, even if long-term average returns eventually meet historical norms. Healthcare costs represent another major variable that mathematical models often underestimate. Without employer-provided health insurance, individual coverage can easily cost $800 to $1,500 monthly for quality plans, particularly for people over 50. A single serious medical issue could consume years of investment returns, while Medicare doesn't begin until age 65, leaving a potential gap for early retirees. Inflation poses a persistent threat that compounds over decades. Even modest 2 to 3% annual inflation reduces purchasing power significantly over time. What seems like adequate income today may feel quite constrained after 10 to 15 years of price increases, particularly for essentials like healthcare, housing, and food that often inflate faster than general price levels. Here's your reality-based action step. Before considering any financial independence strategy, calculate your actual monthly expenses, including healthcare, housing, food, transportation, insurance, and a buffer for unexpected costs. Then, research the real costs of these items in areas where you might want to live. Many people significantly underestimate their true cost of living. Additionally, consider that this strategy requires accumulating $500,000 through systematic investing over 15 to 25 years, depending on your income and savings rate. This assumes consistent market performance, steady employment, no major financial emergencies, and the discipline to maintain high savings rates for decades, conditions that many people struggle to meet in practice. The mindset shift required involves understanding that while the mathematics of passive income are theoretically sound, they involve significant risks and lifestyle trade-offs that aren't appropriate for everyone. Financial independence through investment returns is possible, but it requires much more careful planning, higher savings targets, and greater risk tolerance than simplified calculations suggest. Remember that this is educational information about withdrawal strategies, not personalized financial advice. All investments carry risks, including potential loss of principal. Past performance doesn't predict future results, and individual circumstances vary significantly in ways that affect financial planning outcomes. Number 2, the expense optimization strategy. Geographic arbitrage, the strategy of moving to lower-cost areas to stretch your money further, represents one of the most significant ways to make financial independence achievable with smaller investment portfolios. However, this approach involves complex trade-offs that extend far beyond simple cost of living calculations, and the real-world implementation often proves more challenging than spreadsheet projections suggest. The mathematical appeal is undeniable. Housing costs that consume $2,500 monthly in expensive metropolitan areas might drop to $800 to $1,200 in smaller cities or rural communities. Restaurant meals, entertainment, services, and many other expenses often cost significantly less in areas with lower median incomes. These savings can transform a barely adequate $20,000 annual budget into a comfortable lifestyle in the right location. But the reality of geographic arbitrage involves hidden costs and complications that many people discover only after making irreversible decisions. The most significant hidden cost often involves career opportunities and earning potential. Lower-cost areas typically offer fewer job opportunities and lower wages, which matters enormously if your financial independence strategy fails, or if you need to return to work for any reason. Healthcare access represents another major consideration that cost of living calculators rarely capture accurately. Rural and small-town areas often have limited medical facilities, fewer specialists, and longer wait times for certain procedures. For people with chronic conditions or those approaching ages where medical needs typically increase, the savings from lower living costs might be offset by higher healthcare expenses or reduced quality of care. Social isolation poses a real psychological cost that's impossible to quantify financially, but can significantly impact quality of life. Moving away from established social networks, family relationships, and community connections to save money can lead to depression, loneliness, that undermines the entire financial independence strategy. The cost of maintaining relationships through travel, or the emotional cost of losing them entirely, doesn't appear in any cost of living calculation. Infrastructure differences between expensive and inexpensive areas can create unexpected ongoing costs. Reliable internet service, public transportation, shopping options, and entertainment venues that urban dwellers take for granted may be limited or non-existent in lower-cost areas. The savings from cheaper housing might be partially offset by higher transportation costs if you need to drive longer distances for basic services. Tax implications vary dramatically between states and localities in ways that can significantly impact your effective cost of living. States with no income tax might have higher property taxes or sales taxes that affect your overall financial picture. Some states tax retirement income, while others don't, and local tax rates can vary substantially, even within the same state. Climate considerations also affect long-term costs in ways that aren't immediately obvious. Areas with extreme weather may require higher heating or cooling costs, more frequent home maintenance, or lifestyle adaptations that increase expenses. Natural disaster risks can affect insurance costs and create potential emergency expenses that undermine financial security. The timing of geographic moves matters enormously for financial independence strategies. Moving during your working years allows you to research areas thoroughly, maintain income while transitioning, and make gradual adjustments. Moving after already achieving financial independence based on higher cost assumptions can be financially dangerous if the new location doesn't meet expectations or if unexpected costs arise. Here's your practical evaluation action step. If considering geographic arbitrage, spend extended time in target areas during different seasons before making permanent moves. Research actual costs beyond housing, including healthcare, transportation, food, entertainment, and services. Factor in the costs of moving itself, which can easily reach $10,000 to $20,000 for long-distance relocations. Calculate the true financial impact by comparing not just current costs, but projected lifetime costs, including healthcare, taxes, and potential income changes. Consider visiting potential locations for month-long stays to experience daily life, rather than just vacation experiences that may not reflect reality. Most importantly, honestly assess whether you're choosing a location because you genuinely want to live there or purely for financial reasons. Moves made solely for cost savings often result in unhappiness that leads to expensive relocations back to preferred areas, undermining the entire financial strategy. The mindset shift required involves understanding that geographic arbitrage can be powerful, but isn't a magic solution that eliminates the need for adequate savings or careful financial planning. Lower costs of living can enable financial independence with smaller portfolios, but success requires thorough research, realistic expectations, and acceptance that you're making significant lifestyle trade-offs beyond just financial ones. Remember that this is educational information about location-based financial strategies, not advice about where you should live or how to structure your finances, which depend on individual circumstances that require personalized professional guidance. Number 3. The path to $500,000. Accumulating $500,000 through systematic investing represents a significant financial achievement that most Americans never reach, despite it being mathematically achievable for many middle-income earners over extended periods. The gap between possibility and reality stems from underestimating both the time required and the discipline necessary to maintain consistent saving and investing habits across decades of changing life circumstances. The mathematical framework appears straightforward. Invest a fixed amount monthly, earn average market returns, and compound growth eventually reaches your target. If you can save $1,500 monthly and earn 7% annual returns, you'll accumulate approximately $500,000 in about 17 years. Save $1,000 monthly at the same return rate, and the timeline extends to roughly 22 years. These calculations seem manageable until you consider the real-world challenges that derail most long-term savings plans. The first major reality check involves the assumption of consistent monthly contributions over decades. Life rarely cooperates with financial planning spreadsheets. Job losses, medical emergencies, family obligations, home repairs, and countless other unexpected expenses will challenge your ability to maintain steady contributions. Most people experience multiple periods where they must reduce or temporarily stop investing, extending their timeline significantly beyond initial projections. Income volatility represents another factor that mathematical projections often ignore. While some people experience steady career progression with predictable salary increases, many face periods of unemployment, career changes, economic downturns, or industry disruptions that affect earning capacity. The assumption that you'll consistently earn enough to save substantial amounts over 15 to 25 years proves optimistic for many people. Lifestyle inflation creates a psychological challenge that often proves more difficult than mathematical constraints. As your income grows, the temptation to increase spending typically grows proportionally. The discipline required to maintain high savings rates, while friends and family upgrade their lifestyles, requires psychological fortitude that many people struggle to sustain over decades. Market volatility adds another layer of complexity that simple compound growth calculations ignore. While long-term market returns have historically averaged 7 to 10% annually, the path to those returns involves significant year-to-year variation. Early in your accumulation phase, market downturns can be psychologically devastating, even though they create buying opportunities for long-term investors. Consider a realistic scenario that illustrates the challenges. Sarah begins investing $800 monthly at age 30 with a goal of accumulating $500,000 by age 50. During year 3, she loses her job and stops contributing for 8 months. Year 7 brings a market crash that reduces her account value by 35%, creating panic about her strategy. Year 12 requires a temporary reduction to $400 monthly due to childcare costs. Year 15 brings a divorce that forces the liquidation of 30% of her investments. Despite these setbacks, which represent normal life challenges rather than extraordinary circumstances, Sarah can still potentially reach her goal, but the timeline extends significantly and requires increased contributions during stable periods to compensate for the inevitable disruptions. The strategy that proves most successful involves starting with whatever amount you can consistently maintain, rather than optimistic projections about future savings capacity. Many people fail because they commit to unsustainable contribution levels based on current circumstances rather than realistic long-term assessments of their financial capacity. Systematic increases in contribution amounts can accelerate progress significantly, but these must be tied to actual income growth rather than hopeful assumptions. A 5 to 10% annual increase in contributions can reduce your timeline substantially, but only if your income actually supports these increases and you resist lifestyle inflation that would offset the additional savings. Here's your realistic action step. Calculate multiple scenarios based on different monthly contribution amounts and timelines, including conservative assumptions about interruptions and reduced contributions during life challenges. Build emergency funds specifically to protect your long-term investing from being derailed by unexpected expenses. Start with an amount you're confident you can maintain even during difficult periods. Then increase contributions when your financial situation genuinely improves, rather than optimistically projecting future increases. Track your progress annually and adjust expectations based on actual results rather than initial projections. Most importantly, understand that accumulating $500,000 requires prioritizing long-term wealth building over many other financial goals and lifestyle choices. This means potentially delaying home purchases, vacation spending, vehicle upgrades, and other major expenses that compete with your savings capacity. The mindset shift involves accepting that building substantial wealth requires sustained sacrifice over decades, and most people underestimate both the duration and discipline required. This isn't about short-term motivation. It's about developing financial habits that become automatic and sustainable regardless of changing circumstances. Remember, This is educational information about systematic investing approaches, not personalized financial advice. Investment returns are never guaranteed. Market conditions vary significantly over time, and individual circumstances affect the feasibility of any long-term financial strategy. Always consult qualified financial professionals before making major investment decisions. Number 4. Risk management and healthcare reality. Early financial independence strategies often focus heavily on accumulation and withdrawal mathematics, while severely underestimating two critical risks that can destroy even well-planned retirement strategies: healthcare costs without employer coverage and sequence of returns risk during market downturns. These factors represent some of the most significant threats to financial independence plans, yet they're frequently glossed over in discussions about early retirement because they're complex, variable, and impossible to predict precisely. Healthcare costs without employer-sponsored insurance represent perhaps the most underestimated expense in early retirement planning. Most working Americans have limited visibility into the true cost of their health insurance because employers typically cover 70 to 80% of premiums, leaving employees paying only a fraction of actual costs. When you leave employer coverage, you face the full premium burden plus potentially higher deductibles and out-of-pocket maximums. Individual health insurance premiums vary dramatically based on age, location, and coverage level. But realistic costs for quality coverage often range from $600 to $1,500 monthly for individuals, with family coverage potentially exceeding $2,000 monthly. These costs increase significantly with age. A 50-year-old might pay double what a 30-year-old pays for identical coverage. For someone planning to retire early at age 45 to 50, healthcare premiums alone could consume $15,000 to $25,000 annually before considering deductibles, copays, or uncovered expenses. The Affordable Care Act provides some protection through guaranteed coverage and subsidies based on income, but subsidy eligibility phases out at relatively modest income levels. If your investment withdrawals push your income above subsidy thresholds, you may face full premium costs that can easily exceed the entire 4% withdrawal from a $500,000 portfolio. Long-term care represents another healthcare risk that early retirees must consider. While employer-provided disability insurance typically covers some long-term care costs, early retirees lose this protection. Private long-term care insurance is expensive and becomes more costly with age, but the potential costs of extended care can easily reach $100,000 annually in many areas. The sequence of returns risk poses a mathematical threat that can permanently damage withdrawal-based retirement strategies. This risk occurs when poor market performance early in retirement forces you to sell investments at depressed prices to fund living expenses, reducing your portfolio's ability to recover when markets eventually improve. Consider a scenario where someone retires with $500,000 and immediately faces a 40% market decline, not uncommon during severe bear markets. Their portfolio drops to $300,000, but they still need to withdraw money for living expenses. Continuing to withdraw $20,000 annually from a depleted portfolio prevents full recovery even when markets eventually rebound, potentially leading to premature depletion of funds. The sequence of returns risk is particularly dangerous because it's unpredictable and largely outside your control. Two retirees with identical portfolios and withdrawal strategies can have dramatically different outcomes based solely on market timing relative to their retirement dates. The retiree who begins withdrawals during favorable market conditions may succeed, while the retiree facing early market downturns may exhaust their funds despite following identical strategies. Emergency fund requirements become more critical for early retirees because they lack the employment income that working people can use to weather unexpected expenses. Most financial advisors recommend 6 to 12 months of expenses in emergency funds for working people, but early retirees may need 2 to 3 years of expenses readily available to avoid forced selling during market downturns. Geographic risks also affect early retirement strategies in ways that working people can more easily manage. If your chosen low-cost location experiences economic decline, natural disasters, or significant cost of living increases, you may need to relocate at considerable expense. Working people can potentially change jobs or adapt more easily, while early retirees, depending on fixed portfolios, have fewer options. Here's your risk assessment action step. Research actual health insurance costs in your target retirement location for your age group, including premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket maximums. Calculate how these costs would affect your withdrawal requirements and overall financial independence timeline. Model different sequences of return scenarios using historical market data to understand how early market downturns could affect your specific withdrawal strategy. Consider what you would do if your portfolio declined 30 to 50% during your first few years of early retirement. Develop contingency plans that don't rely on returning to traditional employment, which may not be feasible after an extended absence from the workforce. This might include reducing expenses, moving to lower-cost areas, or developing income sources that don't depend on traditional employment. Consider purchasing disability insurance while still employed, as early retirees often lose access to employer-provided coverage. Research long-term care insurance options and costs, understanding that delaying purchase typically increases premiums significantly. Most importantly, build substantial buffers into your financial independence calculations rather than relying on minimum thresholds. Many successful early retirees target portfolios 30 to 50% larger than theoretical minimums to provide cushions for unexpected costs and market volatility. The mindset shift involves accepting that early financial independence carries real risks that traditional retirement planning doesn't face. Healthcare costs, market timing, and emergency expenses can all threaten withdrawal-based strategies in ways that require careful planning and significant financial buffers beyond minimum theoretical requirements. Remember, this is educational information about retirement planning risks, not personalized financial or medical advice. Healthcare costs vary significantly by individual circumstances, investment returns are never guaranteed, and early retirement strategies involve substantial risks that may not be appropriate for many people's situations. Number 5. The psychology of financial independence. The psychological challenges of pursuing financial independence through reduced spending often prove more difficult than the mathematical requirements, involving fundamental changes in how you relate to money, social expectations, and personal identity that can create lasting stress and social isolation if not handled carefully. While financial discipline is necessary for wealth building, the extreme lifestyle restrictions required for early financial independence can sometimes lead to unhealthy relationships with money and social connections. Lifestyle inflation represents a natural human tendency that serves important psychological and social functions beyond mere materialism. As people's incomes increase, they typically upgrade their living situations, social activities, and lifestyle choices, partly for practical reasons, and partly because these improvements signal success and belonging within their social groups. Fighting against all lifestyle inflation requires constant psychological vigilance that can become exhausting and socially isolating over extended periods. Research on happiness and income shows a complex relationship that challenges simple assumptions about money and satisfaction. While financial security does improve well-being up to a point, the relationship between additional income and happiness levels off significantly once basic needs and reasonable comforts are met. However, this research also suggests that extremely restrictive spending can create stress and social problems that offset the benefits of financial security. The social costs of aggressive financial independence strategies are often underestimated because they develop gradually and affect relationships in subtle ways. Consistently declining social invitations due to cost, choosing housing and transportation options that limit your mobility or comfort, or avoiding activities that friends and family enjoy can lead to social isolation that undermines overall life satisfaction. Family relationships can become strained when one person's financial independence goals require lifestyle restrictions that affect other family members. Spouses may feel deprived of normal lifestyle improvements. Children may feel embarrassed by their family's frugal choices compared to peers, and extended family may view extreme cost-cutting as unnecessary or antisocial. The psychological concept of hedonic adaptation works both ways. Just as people adapt to increased lifestyle standards and require more to feel satisfied, they can also adapt to reduced lifestyle standards and find contentment with less. However, this adaptation process can be uncomfortable and may take considerable time, during which psychological stress and social friction can be significant. Identity formation around extreme frugality can sometimes become unhealthy if it develops into rigid thinking patterns or self-worth tied to spending restrictions. When saving money becomes the primary source of self-esteem, or when any spending feels like moral failure, the behavior may have shifted from healthy financial planning to potentially problematic restriction. Social media and online communities focused on financial independence can sometimes reinforce unhealthy competition around extreme cost-cutting or create echo chambers that normalize social isolation in pursuit of financial goals. While these communities provide valuable support and information, they can also pressure people toward more extreme behaviors than are psychologically healthy. Geographic arbitrage and social isolation often accompany financial independence strategies in ways that can significantly impact mental health and family relationships. Moving away from established social networks and family connections to reduce living costs creates real psychological costs that are difficult to quantify but can substantially affect quality of life. Here's your psychological assessment action step. Honestly, evaluate whether your financial independence strategy is improving or harming your overall life satisfaction, relationships, and mental health. Consider whether you're making financial decisions from a place of empowerment and choice or from anxiety and compulsion. Examine your social relationships and activities to ensure that cost-cutting isn't creating isolation or resentment. Healthy financial planning should enhance your life and relationships, not restrict them to the point of creating ongoing stress or social problems. Consider setting boundaries around financial restrictions that preserve important relationships and activities that contribute to your well-being. This might mean budgeting for social activities, family vacations, or other expenses that support your psychological and social health, even if they slow your path to financial independence. Develop financial goals that align with your actual values and life priorities, rather than pursuing financial independence as an abstract goal that may conflict with what actually makes you happy and fulfilled. Most importantly, recognize that financial independence through extreme lifestyle restriction isn't appropriate for everyone and may conflict with other important life goals like family relationships, career development, or personal growth that require financial investment. The mindset shift involves understanding that healthy financial planning should serve your overall life goals rather than becoming an end in itself that dominates other priorities. Financial independence can be valuable, but not at the cost of social isolation, family relationships, or psychological well-being. If you find yourself experiencing anxiety, depression, social isolation, or relationship problems related to financial restrictions, consider speaking with mental health professionals who can help you develop a more balanced approach to financial planning that supports rather than undermines your overall well-being. Remember, this is educational information about financial psychology, not mental health or financial advice. Individual circumstances vary significantly, and strategies that work well for some people may be inappropriate or harmful for others, depending on their psychological makeup, family situation, and life priorities. The $500,000 financial independence strategy can work mathematically, but the reality involves significant risks, lifestyle trade-offs, and psychological challenges that make it appropriate for only a small subset of Americans. While investment returns can theoretically generate enough passive income to cover basic living expenses, this approach requires extremely careful planning around healthcare costs, market volatility, geographic considerations, and social implications that many people underestimate. The path to accumulating $500,000 through systematic investing typically takes 15 to 25 years of disciplined saving and requires navigating job losses, market downturns, family obligations, and countless other life challenges that can derail long-term financial plans. The lifestyle restrictions necessary to live comfortably on $20,000 to $25,000 annually may create social isolation, family stress, and psychological burdens that offset the benefits of financial independence. Most importantly, this strategy isn't just about money. It requires fundamental changes in how you approach career, relationships, healthcare, and life priorities that may conflict with other important goals like family stability, professional development, or community connection. What's your biggest concern about pursuing financial independence? The accumulation timeline, healthcare costs, lifestyle restrictions, or social implications? Comment below and share which aspect you'd want to explore further. If this provided a realistic framework for evaluating financial independence strategies, consider sharing it with someone who might benefit from understanding both the opportunities and challenges involved. Remember, this is educational content only, not personalized financial advice. Financial independence strategies involve substantial risks, including potential investment losses, inadequate healthcare coverage, and lifestyle changes that may not be appropriate for your individual circumstances. Always consult qualified financial and healthcare professionals before making major life decisions based on investment strategies, and never risk money you cannot afford to lose completely.